All right, hello, welcome to another episode of the Scout Life Race Terra edition. We are cranking along slowly but surely, more slow than I want to be, but it's a lot of work. So it's a rainy day here in the shop. Well, it's not raining in the shop, but it's raining outside, which is kind of fun. It's a nice time because you can't be outside, so you might as well be inside wrenching. Show you some quick updates. This episode, we're going to tackle the floors, getting the column and pedal assembly all situated, and the clutch, and I think that'll probably wrap up the episode. We're still waiting on the axle and transfer case. That'll be a really big next step, and then we're marching toward getting the cage done. So sit tight. Thanks for watching and hanging out. Let's get into it. So my friend Brad helped me with getting this stuff situated. This is anything Scout clutch master kit. As you can see, this shiny piece of aluminum. This is a new thing from PSC. It's a race column. In my bracket today, I've been doing that. I have to kind of, this aluminum Summit or Jegs brand, whatever, brand X, brake master cylinder, kind of almost lined up, but not quite to the factory holes. So we're gotta take care of that today. And check it out, man. This is my first vehicle I've ever had with a quick disconnect steering wheel. I basically went off stock configuration and stock location. I like how Scouts, I like the driving position. I wanted to maintain that. It's a 15-inch wheel. So, and I am gonna use the stock pedal assembly. I know hardcore racers would not, and our other race truck has a custom aluminum, but I didn't want to go through all that. It's something we can deal with later. So anyway, just mounting the second pillow block, and then we can still slide the column in and out for depth. So I'm stoked on that. And then once we do the cage, we'll tie this pedal assembly into the cage. I'll just bolt it in. Fun day. Tomorrow is floor day, so I'm trying to get this stuff just up and out of the way. All right, and here's what I'm working on the clutch. I'm kind of bouncing around between the firewall project and this project, which I don't know why I'm doing that, but it's just what I'm doing. So I'm gonna grind this weld off, take this spring off, and I'm using this Willwood. Now I think it's designed to be mounted like this. Well, meaning that this would be the fixed end, this would be the actuation end, so the whole cylinder is moving. I don't see why it would matter. I'm gonna mount it like this, so the bleeder's up and it's pulling. The goal is that when it's fully engaged or depressed, that it would be perpendicular, a 90-degree angle. So I think if I'm right in this pocket right here, and how I'm doing it is I got this 2-inch, I'm using this factory bracket, which is kind of genius. I'm gonna set that on there like this. And then Luke is making me a bracket that's gonna just CAD design, and we're gonna plasma table or laser cut a ring for this, and then I'll tie that bracket into this so it will not. It gives some extra support to the transmission to clutch, and so I'm gonna leave this a little long. But anyway, might actually just leave it this whole length. Okay, time to get welding. Okay, so I know it's hard to kind of make out what I'm doing here, but I put this angle in this. I want this plate to be perpendicular to this, like perpendicular to this. So I set up this to give me a sense of level, to make this plate level. It's a little sketchy, and then I'm going to weld it in place. So while I don't want this to be a show about how to fabricate, because I'm not a particularly good fabricator, Okay, I feel pretty good about that. See if I don't burn my hand. I'm gonna actually put this on this side. This is a factory. I'm guessing it's. I don't even know if this is really all that square, but I can eyeball it. And who knows, man? Again, maybe in the comments you could comment about a better way to do this. I'm gonna go get another vice grip. Got these bad boys. I found these in a travel-all. Kind of interesting. Craftsman. I think I've showed you them before. Okay, I'm gonna tighten that bolt down. Yeah, I know that I want to go hydraulic and not have it touch the body, like body or the frame for that matter. This you want to stay on the engine, so this will vibrate with the engine and slap around with the engine. All right, I think that's good. Cool. I'm gonna weld it up, and then I marked some locations for the slave, so I'll take this off. So this cylinder is gonna mount in. I'm gonna give it multiple so there's first position. I'm gonna give second position. And I'll probably give a third. I think this has 1.4 inches of stroke. Which here I'll show you something. Okay, this will be hard to see, but essentially I'm at the old spring mount. It's at 7.5 exactly. Yeah, I think this is only like an inch. And if I reach up in there, the disc is, I mean, it's a pretty short throw. So, yeah, we should be fine. As a matter of fact, that's kind of telling me that I think we can actually go out to this outer position, which means I don't have to cut this off. So I'm gonna play with that first. All right, let's get this welded and cut, and we'll come back and test fit it. Okay, while I'm letting the slave cylinder bracket dry, I made this little sub bracket. It's pretty sweet. I mean, this column saves like 10 pounds probably, and the steering wheel is super light. I mean, it's like, I wish you could feel this because it's so light. Anyway, I'm gonna mark these holes, drill this, and then I'm done with the column install until we get the cage done. Sweet. All right, there she is. I'm actually pretty stoked how it came out. It's my first time messing with a race column. But it's just like super burly. It's tied in there and there. And then I can run, you know, like a double D shaft to the steering box. I have not installed it on the frame, so that's the next step. Hopefully hopefully that'll work. It is longer than a factory column, but we'll see. Okay, so next up on this project is get this to bolt up, then I'll take everything off and prepare to paint these brackets and get everything ready. I think I'm gonna paint the firewall. I think the whole truck's gonna get painted. Big news announcement. I just want it to look good. I know it's like started life as kind of a, it'll still be lower budget, but just like these dents and stuff. I know it's going to get dented, but I'd like it to look good on race day and represent the brand well and represent International well. So I'll probably just, but I don't want to paint this black. I'd like it to be, I think this is like, I'm not sure exactly what color this is. It's like a sand color, but I'll paint. Actually, if you guys know what color this is, comment and let me know. I'm going to start looking up paint swatches. But anyway, I think my slave bracket is cool by this point, so I'll go keep working on that. All right, I'm going to kind of zoom in here, and we're going to, man, I'm so bad at where I put things. This is the first half. Remember, I'm going to make this even more beefy. Yeah, one trick is like with anything, rock crawlers, any kind of build, is making it strong but not heavy. This is a little farm fab, if I could be self-critical. No offense to farm fab, or no offense to farmers, but you know what I'm saying. Like where they just use like a piece of 1/2-inch plate for a floor pan, because that's what they had laying around. I get it. Okay, so that's the bracket. Okay, I don't know what happened. The screen blacked out. So that's the bracket. It is going to tie into a, I have a whole thing cut. I think I'm going to cut it in half, or just catch these three, and I'll make another bolt-on bracket that connects this to this, just for additional stability. But essentially, the other thing I'm guessing is that I'm not going to want to firm mount this slave cylinder, so maybe a jam nut. I'm thinking that through. So check it out. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty good. I might just get a sleeve or get a bigger Heim for this. Let's just throw a bolt in there for fun and see how it works out. I gotta measure the ID of this hole. I think it's probably, it looks bigger than, it looks like 7/16 to me. But maybe I can get a 7/16 sleeve. This will be good enough until I get that sleeve. I don't know, something like that. Or maybe I can find like a, I don't know, some sort of misalignment. It's pretty safe from rocks. Like you'd have to take a pretty, I might put a, I guess I could bolt a skid plate off of this, extend it out with like a little sheet of aluminum to kind of cover this area in case of a stick or a heavy branch or something. This whole side I'm going to have like, you have your, this is a pretty delicate piece. Don't want to break that sucker off. But it's pretty low impact area right there. I don't know, man. I'm pretty stoked. Mostly just stoked, not just because the idea came to reality. So I'm going to try to order a sleeve. I'm going to test fit a couple. I'm going to try to determine the ID of that. And then I'll finish it. Once I get this part shipped, I'll finish the bracket. Then I'll paint everything. But I'm definitely convinced. So it's going to be pulling. So the force will be up on this bracket. So I'll actually probably connect it from the bottom. I'll come in with like a gusset off the bottom that bolts onto here. So I still want access to this side cover. I don't want to make it cumbersome to service. And even though this is a half-inch bolt, I don't trust that much leverage on this bracket. Pretty cool. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for the day. We got, I got to do that master cylinder, so I'll go finish that. I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. And then tomorrow's going to be a big day. Tomorrow I think is sheet metal day, at least cut out the floor day. So that'll be fun. All right, welcome to another day. It's a sunny day. The rain has stopped. Owen is modifying the pedal assembly. This is the last of our work to get the clutch master cylinder, brake pedal, brake master, all that situated. We had to just scoot a bolt over. And I'm just getting ready to do the floors. And I decided today, this floor is actually, it looks terrible, but it's pretty solid. And I think, I just don't feel like, especially up here, it's pretty decent. So I think I'm just gonna patch this. I think the other side is a little worse, so I might do the whole floor pan. But we're just gonna do this, and then today Owen is gonna get back here and hoss this out, man. It'll make a big transformation. Then we're gonna, I'm gonna do the shock towers inside here. So I think I'm gonna cut this wheel well like here, and then run a 4-inch filler strip and kind of mini tub this thing so I can fit the shock towers inside. And then I'll have like a flange poking through for a crossbar. That's per the rules. The cage has to be connected back here. And as you can see, some white dots on the floor right there and there. That's where I'm gonna inset my fuel cell. So that's gonna be fun. Because the fuel cell, the shocks, the spare tire mount, all that's gonna be connected to the cage, which will not be connected to the body. We decided we're gonna float the cage through the body, not to the body. So the body will just sit, even the seating, like the driver and passenger seats, will be connected to the cage. So the body is really just will be held on the body mounts, but it will have very little weight, and it should hold up and give us the most strength and durability for a full body truck. Because most of the stuff you see about Baja trucks are all tube chassis trucks, and this is a different class. This is a vintage style truck. which they just built them differently, and there was a lot of experimentation. So there's not a lot of data actually on how to do stuff. Again, I'm using the historic Sherman Balch race truck as a guide and doing the best I can, asking a lot of people questions. I'm not going to film a ton of grinding and cutting on the floors, but I'll show you intermittent progress. Making some good progress. What do you think? It was like latex paint?
I don't know.
I spilled back in 1983.
Yeah, dude.
And then I'll start the arduous task of wire wheeling this whole thing. But then we'll get rust bullet on it. It'll look sweet, and we'll do some cutting. So we'll probably wire wheel, then we'll cut the wheel wells out. And I made a decision. I'm just gonna there's enough holes in the floor when I wire wheeled it that I'm just gonna put the whole floor pan. It's the right thing to do. Couple things. The biggest mistake I see people make when they do a floor pan is they cut all the way up to this seam. The new floor pans do not go that long, so leave a minimum of 1 inch. I'll probably cut on this side of that line, so you have a lip to spot weld too. And these are the braces under the floor, so I'm not gonna cut those out. Normally you can see spot welds, and that's the best way to get at stuff like here. You can kind of see like there's a spot weld, there's a spot weld, there's a spot weld. That's the easiest way. It's just, and I don't have a spot weld drill here, so I'll just grind those out. And you nip and chisel and keep going at it, but that's a good layout. And then watch out for this, the edge of the rocker. I'm not gonna replace the rocker, so I'll cut this clean, vacuum it out, spray some stuff in there, and call it good. Again, it's a race truck, people. Full restoration, totally different story. All right, Owen just got through the workout of his life. Man versus machine. That's really pretty perfect. We'll just maybe hand hit it with a 80 grit just to prep it for the rust bullet, but it's looking good. And remember, we're gonna cut these. I'm still debating how I want to do this, the shock mounts. I think I got to get the hoops first, and then I might, yeah, I got to figure that out. Because technically the bed can be open to the ground. Because I'm gonna cut a big hole up there. I showed you that for the fuel cell. Hole in the middle for shock towers on the outside edges. I'll probably leave this complete for the spare tire, which will sit like this, and then I have an alu box that I want to put in there. So maybe we'll go spare tire vertical, alu box, because I do need like a day's provision. We need a dynamic pull rope, clevis mounts, stuff like that, some extraction stuff, and a couple gallons of water. But anyway, check this out. Floor is completely, really ready. The next phase is a little more paint prep, and then we'll rust bullet everything. And then we'll have to get the floor pan, which I don't have yet. That side I have not tackled. Not super excited to tackle it, but it's a big step, man. Getting that done is a huge step. All right, welcome to a new day. Not 100% sure what we did in the last clip because a week has gone by. Got a haircut. Brad is back in the shop. What's up? I just want to run you through kind of this section of the video is going to be a macro section because we just got to make, we're under such a tight deadline that we have just a lot of things to do, and filming every detail is maybe boring to you and difficult for progress. So I'm going to walk you through some updates and we'll keep getting your feedback. Check it out. Okay, so on the body, I'm not sure how much we showed of this, but we got the floor. The passenger side was cut out and treated with that OSFO stuff. Yesterday, I got the driver's side floor cut out, and they're pretty, of course. Every time I start filming like a bike or a chopper or a hot rod, something rips by. Yeah, so like, I mean, this is, I mean, on any of our restoration vehicles, this would be 100% replaced. But for this truck, it's honestly solid enough. So I'll patch this next, and then we'll rust bullet everything in preparation for the floor, the new floors. This is gonna be funny to you, but this is our weight simulation program. We have 700 pounds on the back, because as Brad and I were calculating the body tub, the fuel, 40 gallons of fuel, the roll cage, 2 batteries, some gear, we figured about 600 to 700 pounds. So we threw 700 pounds weight on the tail, which that weight in the race truck is going to be dispersed between the whole back half. So that's how we set our bump stops, because today we're doing shocks and bump stops, and I'll show you kind of what we're doing. But that will, and we went from, here's my meticulous note taking. At 200 pounds, we had a 11.5 measurement. At 400 pounds, 11, 600 pounds, 10 and a quarter, 700 pounds, 9 3/4. And we did bounce on it and cycle, and the suspension feels really nice. So I'm stoked on that. We're using some Timbren bump stops. These are nice progressive bumps. The brackets were just a little too tall, so using the portaband, we actually cut these down. We're gonna weld those back together. I bought some airbag helper, these are airbag helper spring perches. So we'll show you how that's gonna come together, but Brad has prepped those all out, and that's gonna be pretty cool. So yeah, we're gonna get ready to start tacking stuff on. I'm trying to avoid taking the backing plates off to weld this. This is where the shock mount is gonna go. I'll show you how that's gonna be. We'll basically have dual shock mounts mounted here. Shocks will come up outside the frame up to the cage. We'll try to use a 12-inch travel shock on this rear portion, probably a 10-inch travel on the front. On the front of the truck, got some progress done. I got, as you saw, the oil pump rebuilt, an oil pan. I got my oil drain back. So now I have my oil cooler feed, oil cooler drain back, hydraulic clutch brackets coming together. I got this is gonna be a stop. So it'll stop the clutch from like the throttle bearing from going too far out that way. And just, I don't want to rely on this, on the slave cylinder to be stopping the motion. And then there'll be a spring, a return spring. So that I'm waiting on a couple parts. Hopefully I'll get them today. Dan just texted me. He tracked our shipment for our transfer case that he built and the front axle that he built. Stoked on that. Got a lot of work to do with the front axle as far as shock mounts, maybe a truss. We'll debate that today. So anyway, it's fun. Good to be in the shop. Today is a full shop day, so we'll have a lot of good progress. All right, so here's our shock, double shock mount, spring perch rig on the bench. Brad's welding some, this is what it looks like on the truck. It's pretty slick. I'll show you what it looks like, but we've been able to calculate our shock travel. I had these 10-inch travel shocks. They are not going to be enough for the rear. We're gonna need a 12-inch travel shock for the rear. I think the 10s will be fine for the front. But essentially, we need 5.5 inches of up travel, which will give us 6.5 inches, 7.5? 7.5 of droop.
7.5 of droop?
Yeah, so it's pretty sick. All right, we're keeping at it. Time to take our 900 pounds of weight off the back. All right, here's a new day update. Owen's here. What's up, Owen? What's up? He's just painting the work that Brad and I did yesterday, mostly Brad. And good news, we got the binder boneyard pallet that we were waiting on. So the transfer case, front axle, I'll kind of walk you through all that stuff. Bunch of parts. And then Owen's gonna go ahead and prep, and we're gonna paint the firewall satin black. I didn't want to, but I think it's the right thing to do. So just crisps everything up and it looks right. So anyway, sweet. All right, new day update. So I've been working on this transfer case from Dan. Thanks again for building that. Looks sweet. You know, it's confidence building when you see like marks to know that they were torqued, and the thing was super clean, ready to rock. I went back through, replaced all the lock washers on these bolts and retorqued this adapter plate, installed the bowl gear, torqued this to as tight as I could torque it. Next up, we're going to slap the transfer case on so I can get drive shaft measurements and get those ordered up from Tom Woods and make some big progress. So not using a gasket. I typically don't use a gasket on the transfer case to transmission, any like real machine surface. So this is just right stuff. Gonna let that sit for about 30 seconds and go ahead and attach the transfer case. All right, welcome back to a new day. I have no idea how many days of work is into this current episode, but I appreciate you following along, appreciate your support, appreciate the comments, and generally just the excitement, because I'm super excited and we've done some good things. So today I'll show you what I'm working on. It is front axle day. This week, my goal is to get the front axle completely built and installed and situated with lower shock mounts, bump stop mounts, trusses. I have some fun stuff I'll show you. I'm going back old school. This is a period build, so I'm trying to keep it period style. Let me show you what I'm up to. Okay, so and some of you guys might think this is crazy, and I appreciate that. Dan did a cut and turn, so it's got more caster. I think he put final 6 or 7 degrees. I am gonna run a 4-degree shim, pointing the pinion up because it's down. I don't want it to be facing down for binding issues. And I've got this cleaned up, so I have to make, this is gonna be confusing a little bit. But this is gonna be my shock mount. So the shock mount's gonna be like this. There'll be, I think I'm just gonna do, I might do 2 sleeves. I have some 7/8 OD, 1/2 inch ID DOM. It's gonna go in that, I'll enlarge that hole. And look at my tools and equipment, man. I got my workhorse. This thing is from Swag Off-Road, the base, and it's just a Milwaukee. This setup is incredible. I've got my garage sale Craftsman drill press. This thing is like okay. The RPMs are a little too fast and it's not very powerful, so you have to use a lot of cooling fluid. And we're gonna put it to the test because I do have a 7/8 drill bit that we're gonna try to drill this shock mount out. Anyway, so track with me. So I got this shock mount. This plate will be doubled up, so there'll be 2 of them like this, which does a couple things. Number one, it strengthens the C to the tube and it creates enough spacing for a tall shock, because I don't have a height like the hood is my height constriction or restriction. So we got this here. Then I need to make, you have a bump stop, so I need a very robust, very tough bump stop. I'm gonna be using these Timbren style bump stops on the front, but I can't have the bump stop slamming on this angle pumpkin. It'll just rip the bump stop apart and it won't work effectively. So I need to create a flat plate, but also the plate has to be removable because the U-bolts have to go down and they can't rotate, so they have to drop straight down. So here's the system. And the guys at the shop pitched to me a different idea, but I'm gonna go with my idea just because. So I'm gonna throw a plate in here. You see my little punches? I'm gonna drill and tap, and then probably weld a nut on the bottom also. This is gonna go there. I'll cut a tiny filler in there, make essentially a bridge. So picture this with 3 holes in it. So I'll remove it, put the axle in. Then I'll create a flat plate. So I'll cut this. I'll put another bridge piece the same height. So about there, I'll notch this and I'll put another plate, and then I'll bolt a bridge on with a little tiny tab that just rests on this angle. I might flatten a little saddle in it so it doesn't bend out. And then the other side's easy. I'll actually put just a perch on there, and should be epic, man. And I'll do a similar bridge system here. And then I am going to do a tension truss, an old school tension truss. I'm gonna model it off the Sherman Balch truck. And I will insert a picture here to show you, to prove the abuse that truck took. So insert that picture. Whoa, right? That picture's crazy. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna keep fabricating, taking my time, and then I'll ping back at you. All right, so you can see I have these nuts on here. Got you. So that's gonna be here. Then, and I'm sorry I'm so messy. Got my holes marked. This is gonna be sitting, this is gonna be my bridge plate. So just a step at a time. It's my little filler. So what I'm gonna do is, this has gears, and so I'm gonna be really careful, because in here, this range, in here there's a bearing and there's the inner axle seal. The inner axle seal is, you know, in there pretty far, so you'd have to heat this pretty much, but I'm gonna preheat it gently. Just get it up to a couple hundred degrees. And this should be okay. I've welded stuff on top of housings before, and I've had good success with this technique. I know there's probably people that are like, bro, you're doing it wrong. But this is racing, and this kind of figures stuff out. Sure, I could have put a Ford 9-inch that you can weld to. But anyway, we'll figure this out together. All right, I'm gonna weld it and then I'll check back. All right, so yeah, the preheating helps the weld flow, and I put this upper plate on. I just want to, like, when you're welding to like cast or whatever this is, mild steel to cast, let's just say, in my humble opinion, you want to distribute the load as much as possible. So now I'll cap off the back of this with a little plate, and then we'll get going on these pieces. And just a quick question for you guys to leave in the comments. So sometimes, like, I leave the camera, sometimes we'll do like step by step. Here's what we're doing. It takes a little longer to shoot and to explain and to do, but there's educational benefit and documentation benefit. Sometimes I'll queue up what I'm gonna do and run, you know, run it on time lapse. Sorry, I was distracted by looking at the back of the engine and my new clutch setup, which I'll show you. Run it time lapse. This video has been more just, here's what we did, keeping you in the process, but also keeping the project moving. So which of the three do you prefer? Long format, just let the camera run, yapping on, doing stuff, some explanation, lots of time lapse, or just a little bit of combination of all three of the options? Open to feedback. These videos are for us collectively, so but check this out. So I got this spring spec'd out, and it is, you know, the clutch arm moves about 1.25 inches to full disengagement of the clutch. And you want to control, you want to take as much stress off the slave cylinder as possible. So I got this adjustable rod, which is not long enough, so I need to take this off and weld another nut on the bottom. But you also don't want the throttle bearing to ride on the fingers. So that's my setup so far. I still have that ring I need to put on there to tie into those 2 bolt holes. But I'm feeling pretty good about that. And this week we'll also get the firewall. Also, guys, I want to throw out a crazy idea I've been percolating on. The roll cage is going to puncture through the body, so nothing is going to be secured to the body. It's all going to be to the roll cage. Roll cage will go, I'll cut holes. These are for, I'll essentially hole saw out that whole thing. I'll hole saw out that whole area there. I'll hole saw out an area back here, and those clovers will be pretty much flush with the floor height, maybe just slightly above so you can get a wrench on them. So the body is just holding itself and the steering column and pedals. So what do you think about aluminum floor pans? I thought I could use a 2-part epoxy and rivet the mess out of them. And I don't know why, I just feel like it feels race truck to me, because all it's really doing is keeping dirt and debris off my feet and off the passenger compartment. But does it lend to the structural rigidity? I can put steel floor pans back in, but I thought, like, man, I'll save 20 pounds, maybe more, 25 pounds. And it's just kind of race truck looking. Because I'm not going to put lips, I don't need the weather stripping lips. I'm not going to use those. And they're pretty solid, the floors. And the way I left it, you could rivet onto all these ridges. Anyway, comment in this video, and hopefully I see the comments before I launch this video and do the work. Anyway, back at it. All right, team, welcome to a new day in the messy workbench. So this design is coming along, and I'm actually pretty stoked about it. So you can kind of see how I'm building this bridge to Terabithia for the bump stop. So this plate's removable. This is going to be fixed. So what I'm going to do is fill that space in and make a flat spot. And I think I'm gonna make a center pin for this, or another bolt, probably. And what's cool about it is, again, when this bridge is in there, and there's this plate will bolt onto this plate somewhere in here. It's gonna be tight. Yeah, so I'll probably throw a 1/4 inch plate up here and I'll drill and tap it. But we're building a race truck, man. Innovating as we go and coming up with an idea. And that's what you gotta do. Sometimes you gotta own your ideas until it's not a good idea. You just come up with a concept, stick with it, execute it. But what I like is this is gonna be a kind of a truss of sorts. And I'm thinking about doing my lower truss, which would be here. Bolts that go through to a tension truss. I think I'm gonna do it. I wanna just do a good job. And again, my primary goal is build a tough axle. It's gonna hold up and get it all installed by today's Wednesday. By Friday, I want this axle in that truck with the slot mags on. Oh yeah, drive shaft shipped today. Thanks, Tom Woods. And IH Parts America has been a really good friend and sponsor throughout this process. They have some great aftermarket parts, and they manufacture them. So I got some caster shims coming, and they're getting me some longer wheel studs for the slot mags. So those should be here, and I'll do I'll show that on video of installing those as I build out the front end. So thanks to our sponsors. It's cool to see the IH Parts, the Scout Part world coming together, but specifically IH Parts, Binder Boneyard have been the primary two contributors. And of course, our company, Anything Scout, is playing a big part, and will, in a future episode, we're gonna do some thrash days back in Iowa. So anyway, I'm gonna keep fabricating on that, and I'll show you the progress as I go. It's a new day. Back on the front end project. I showed you some progress on that. So phase 2, and this is the encouragement to you guys, and the vision, I don't know, for this project is kind of home garage, race car builder, noob. Anyway, about the spirit of fun and adventure and learning. So, using simple hand tools, the Epic Portaband with the Swag Off-Road stand, which cuts amazing. I did break a blade last night, changed that out, no biggie. Used my from cardboard template to metal template to duplicate. You don't need a fancy plasma table. We have all that stuff at our shop in Iowa, but again, in the spirit of this build, we're trying to do it like many of you would have to do it. So this is 7/8 OD, 1/2 inch ID DOM. It's gonna go through there for our shock mount. So this is gonna support this. So I just wanted to, I have this cheesy Craftsman drill press right there. It did not work. So I just drilled this by hand with some 2x4s, as you saw in the time lapse. So I'm gonna keep going on that, and I'll show you what Brad is up to. Brad is back with us. Thanks, Brad. He's been really helpful on this project. It's just nice to have and he's patching some sheet metal there and there. So that, then we're gonna try the steel it paint. And then we have some innovative ideas for the floor. Oh, check it out, I got my gauges. Excited about those. Not a sponsor, but they make good race rated stuff. Volt gauge fuel pressure. And the reason I have a fuel pressure on a carbureted engine is so that, and check this out, is so that I can monitor. So if the engine dies and I lose fuel pressure, then I know it's a fuel pump. So it's just a diagnostic tool. But I'll just put this literally in line. It'll run this fitting, and then voila, you have a fuel pressure gauge on a carbureted motor. And then we have oil pressure, which my oil pressure sender is going to go here. I have it plugged off for now, so that should fit. Yeah, pretty stoked. So stuff is moving. So again, just to recap, this week our goal is to get the front axle completely built out. We have 2 more days to finish that. Today, we're gonna get the firewall start to built out. We're gonna put the master cylinder pedal assembly, clutch master. We're gonna put stops on both the clutch and the throttle pedal so that we're not relying on the master cylinder to stop the motion of the pedal and the throttle cable to stop the motion of the carburetor. Eric, thanks for that tip on the stops on the pedals. And we're gonna keep cranking. That's what we're doing every day. All right, so again, I don't even have a vise. So I'm working on getting one. I'm gonna start getting some more tools because just haven't had time. So I made my own vise, spaced this out. So now I'm gonna fit this whole structure onto the axle and keep pressing along. Brad's working on a couple interesting things. We're running a factory accelerator pedal, so he's gonna start beefing up these so that they don't break. And we have 1 for the truck, 2 spares. And then we'll also put a stop, like a bushing stop on the pedal so that we're not relying on the cable like I said earlier. All right, I wanted to show you this before I weld it. So this inner plate right here is I'm gonna put 2 more bolts in it. So this will have whatever, 4 or 5, 6 bolts in it, 2 right here. That's the shock mount. Not too bad. It'll look good once I weld it all up. And the reason it's offset on this is because of the caster. This is about the correct pinion angle that the axle is sitting in the truck. So I'm gonna go start welding this up. Pretty stoked.
First, I took this drill.
What's the big objective?
We're putting shocks through here. It's gonna be super metal. You know, they're gonna come out like all crazy. So I took this drill first, you know, made smaller holes, and now I'm making these bigger holes to round out the corners of it all. And then I'm gonna cut here. And it's gonna be a nice, smooth looking thing.
And then another thing we talked about is I think we're gonna split the wheel well in the middle and push this whole thing back to gain clearance for the tires coming up into the quarter panel. So that'll be another mission that Owen might keep tackling today. All right, hey, what's up everybody? Another new day. Woo! And sorry for moving along. I built, this is the left side bump stop pad and the shock tower, beefing it up. I'm gonna keep the stock spring perch, nothing wrong with them. Then this is the construction of my truss. So that's what I'm working on now. Cutting these pieces on the truss to you know what. Then I'm gonna plate this to make a flat perch. Then this is interesting, you guys. And I learned this design from the Sherman Balls truck. Then essentially these are gonna go, I'll probably weld these together and then graft them. I'll cut a section of this out. And it'll make more sense as it comes together, but pretty cool. I feel like it's necessary. I don't want to break a housing, man. I want this truck to be tough. So, and while we're just at it, our good friends at IH Parts America sent me some extended wheel studs. So I'm gonna put these with our Binder Boneyard parts and our Anything Scout parts. So that's the front axle. Our great friends at Tom Woods. We got some drive shafts, and if you notice, we have 2 long boxes, 2 short boxes. That is primary and spare shafts. So man, they are super cool. They treat us well, and so if you need drive shafts for your truck, hit those guys up. Anyway, I'm gonna cut these. I think I'm gonna be careful. It's just one tack. One might ask, why aren't you working on sawhorses or jack stands? And that's a good question. But I like working at waist height, and I don't have super tall stands, so I'm kind of mucking it around on the bench here. And it just keeps getting heavier with all this metal I'm adding, and so I'm nervous about huffing it over there. All right, keep at it. All right, so it's getting late. This front end's been kind of kicking my butt, and I'm sorry for not taking you guys along the process a little more. And I was like frantically working on it. I started painting it so I could flip it over because I got to get it into the truck. And I realized that I haven't shot very much. So what you're looking at, this is the underside. This is the tension truss. So these bolts, because what you have to understand is this simulates the leaf spring pack. Then there's a U-bolt plate. And then these bolts go across. And as you they go into those right in there. And as you tension those, it sucks the axle this way and puts tension on it. So this is the bottom. It's tight in here, tight in here. This is the bump stop plate, upper shock mounts. This side is just like, woo, thick. And the reason I had to put this notch in here is because I'm like, where do you put a jack stand? There's nowhere on this, of course, choppers. But there's nowhere on this axle to put jack stands. So I figure you can put one here, and now you can put one on this little saddle I notched in. See that there? So and it's tough, man, thinking through all the details. And I mean, I'm committed on this axle. It is fully welded, it's done. So I'm just gonna blow some paint on it. There's a lot of weld balls on it. I need to get some anti-spatter spray. But so that Monday I can start assembling. I got all my parts staged here. I did get the wedges, the 4-degree wedges. And typically when you put these wedges on, you actually put them on fat side forward so that you get more caster. But I have caster rotated into the knuckles, but I need more pinion angle. So this is gonna kick that pinion up a little bit with new center pins, 3/8 center pins. And if you ever go to 3/8 center pins, you're gonna have to hog out the underside of the axle So I had to bore these out to a larger diameter. Anyway, thanks for tracking along. I think it's going to wrap it up for this episode. End of next episode, we'll get the thing on all fours. Oh, I started installing the drive shafts, but this front end is my priority. All right, folks. See you next time. All right, team, big day. I huffed this thing in there. Now you can kind of see it makes sense a little more why I did the truss like this. U-bolts. Now, one thing I kind of screwed up on, and it's just something to note for a future. I should have probably test fitted the axle housing, but if you could see, originally this axle, I did not have these shims in there. So I put the 4-degree shim, which made my pinion angle much nicer, but it also tilted my shock mounts. So my shock mounts are like basically vertical, and I kind of wanted them to like swoop back a little bit, but it'll be fine. I can preload the shock bushings just a tiny bit. But cool, so I'm gonna bolt this thing in. I'm painting the diff cover. I have a heavy duty diff cover, so when I smack into something, I don't destroy the ring and pinion. And then we're gonna start taking all these parts and assembling the outers. All right, hello, welcome to another episode. We are cranking away at the Race Terra for the Nora Mexican 1000 2023. We made a lot of progress on a lot of things, namely the axle. Got the axle installed in the last episode, and now we're going to start assembling that axle. So, and as crunch time comes in here, we have about 2 months left until the race. Well, until April. The videos might start getting a little scarce. There'll be a couple of better quality videos coming out, so just be patient, bear with me. What's first and foremost is building this truck. Second important is documenting it. And I might start doing more stuff on Instagram. But let's check out what's going on. Launching right into it. You saw in the last episode building out this beefy front axle. Probably overkill, but we'll see. Got the bump stop pads. Got a diff cover. I might get an aluminum one. This thing is like 35-40 pounds, so I might get an aluminum one because every ounce counts. I'm debating. Got these tie rod draglings from Dan at Binder Boneyard. Thank you for making those, Dan. Debating on painting them. The paint will not last. Nothing will last when you have sand beating on it, so I think I might just put them on and risk them getting rusty. Got some parts from the boys back in Iowa, anything Scout. Tie rod ends, some bearings. Got these alloy 43 or 4130, I can't remember what alloy they are. But they're from Yukon, not a sponsor, but good quality stuff. So I'm gonna be assembling those. Brand new 8-bolt spindles. What's cool is when you buy these brand new from like our website, they come with bearings installed, which is kind of cool. But I'll have to grease those up, put these little seals in there. Got our bearings. I'm using National bearings. I think they're as good as, I mean, Timken's probably the best, but made in Thailand. It's really hard to find made in USA stuff anymore. Sorry about that. And we got that stuff. These are more seals. So I'm gonna get these put together so that tomorrow is Tuesday in the week. This is another thing I don't want to look at because it's a lot of work and I have to get this done by the end of the week. But my daughter's getting married on Saturday, so I'm trying to prioritize this. Oh yeah, and then tomorrow I'll be installing the Tom Woods drive shafts. Super stoked on that. And now that the front end is in, I can sneak that bad boy right there. There you are. So that's gonna be really fun progress. I might even do it tonight, but we'll see. All right, let's get to work. All right, welcome back. So we're setting up ball joints. I got the right side done. I thought that I would show you. This is from memory, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty accurate. So what you want to do is, once you get the ball joints pressed into your seat, which Dan did that for me, thank you, Dan. Then you want to torque the lowest nut. So the lower nut, torque that to 80. I got my torque wrench on eBay. It's an S&K. Did a little bit of research. This thing got pretty good reviews, but I saved a lot of money getting it on eBay. So set it to 80. I've torqued that. Next, you need this OTC 7080 upper ball joint tool. You see that? Kind of a pain to get. Not every auto parts store has them. Now we're going to torque that to 50. So I'm going to back this down. Okay, to 50. Got to hold it nice and square. This is the fun part, man, and I'm trying to be real careful. You're just gonna wait till, this is the clicks type torque wrench, so I'm gonna wait till it clicks. Okay, that's 50. I'm gonna feel it. Feels snug, but watch when I do this one to 100. Roll this baby up to 100. It feels great. And then I'm gonna over torque this to get the cotter pin to line up, and I'll set my cotter pin, and then we'll move on to the spindles and the wheel bearings and the axle shafts. I'm doing the U-joints right now. So I'll go finish those up and we'll be back. And one last thing, since more than one person's gonna be working on this truck, I'll mark these to show that they've been torqued. And it's a good sign to see if they've moved. Okay, go hit the other side, and then let's keep cranking. All right, this is the 4340 shaft. Got my spindle seals, thrust washers, all that kind of stuff on it. I'm gonna install this dry. Okay. And then I'll put plenty of grease on this seal and on the inner spindles. Let's go slap that on. I like to line the keyway up as vertical as possible. It doesn't line up exactly. All right, big stuff, man. So this axle came with a 1310 yoke, so I upgraded that to a 1350. So now we have Tom Wood shaft with 1350s on T-case and diff. 1310s on the front. I'm gonna pay close attention to this space. On a reverse shackle, that is going to close up, so I'm nervous about that, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna keep going, man. Gotta put the rotors and hubs and brakes together. All right, so I'm just setting up the hubs, the bearing hubs and rotors. Again, got these studs from IH Parts America. They are longer. You can see here, there's the factory boys. And with these slot mags, I just wanted a little more bite. And I'm using these pretty cool Krager, I think. They're old school. These are like boosted lug nuts, dude. Look at them. Ooh, shimmer. So yeah, my technique, I just got some grease. Got an old sector shaft nut, I think. Kind of put that over. Put a bearing. I'm sorry, bearing. A washer. Some grease. And just be careful, pay attention. And then I just use my ratchet and now I'm going to hit my races in, grease my bearings, and get this installed. Woo! All right, what's up everybody? Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks. My daughter got married, a bunch of other stuff happened, but we've made incremental progress on the Race Terra. Let's give you a walk around, and I apologize deeply for not including you in every step, but I'm just on a tight deadline, man. We gotta be at this race. There's a lot of people, a lot of sponsors, and a lot of things riding on this. So check it out though. It's gonna be some fun progress. Slot mags in all their glory. So lots happened. The front end is completely together. There was a brief debate about whether we were going to run locking hubs or dry flanges. The original Sherman Ball truck had dry flanges. These are stronger, more simple, but definitely for testing, we're going to run the locking hubs. And the only argument for the locking hubs, in my opinion, is it's like a fusible link. If something's going to break, I'd rather have it break a hub than a inner axle U-joint or an axle shaft. So that front end's all together. As you can see, we got our full custom truss. See how those bolts run under there? That's what tightens this side to that side, is those bolts. Truss it all together. Pretty stoked on that. Look at this bad boy. Woo! That is ready for TIG welding. My friend Willie's gonna help me weld that. I'm not sure what else. I got this V-band clamp welded on. This small progress. We're making space for the tube. The front cage is gonna come through. I just thought it'd be better to lop this off. We'll see. You make decisions. You got to live with it. Oh, look at this. Floors have been rust bulleted. I'll tackle the rest of the floors. Will be finished tomorrow. I'll film that. Brad's here again. He is working on a cage cradle for the fuel safe fuel cell. 45 gallons. This is just the basket or the cage for the fuel cell. The can, they call it, the fuel cell can. So that's about it. And what I'm working on right now is front bump stops. I'll show you those in a second. We're just making progress, man, because next week we go in for the cage. So I'm trying to get everything buttoned up on here so I can put the body back on. So good times, good stuff. Let's keep cranking.